Would you rather have 1,000 people scroll past your content, or would you love to have 10 dream clients who feel like you are speaking directly to them? Well, hello, and welcome to, my name's Amanda Kaufman, and I'm so delighted that you are deciding to tune in. Thank you so much for being here. We're talking today about visibility. So I'm really excited about this. We're going to talk about how do you go from invisible to influential, and how do you master that online presence. I'm going to be busting some myths about visibility today, especially when it comes to building a successful coaching business. So if you've ever felt like you're posting into the void, or that you don't have kind of the followers that you need for your business to be able to thrive, and if you feel like you would be more successful if people just kind of knew about you, knew what you could do, then this stream is absolutely for you. So shout out to Y in the chat if you can see me and hear me and you are here for this topic today. Because look, here's the big myth about visibility. Most coaches really believe that visibility is about virality, right? And it means having like a huge audience and lots of followers, and that everything that you post gets a ton of likes. But here's the truth. Visibility is super important. So you're like right on with that part. However, you'd be absolutely shocked at how much business you can generate with smaller visibility. With more, hello, I'm glad everybody's here today. I'm so glad, yay. So just say hello in the chat if you haven't said hello to me yet, because I get so excited knowing you're here. Okay, so the thing is that visibility is about show up. It's not about blow up, right? So show up in the chat if you know how important it is to just like show up for your business. Hello. I'm seeing everybody say hello, good morning. I'm so glad. Look, you're my first meeting of the week, and I'm super excited that you're here. And that's kind of one of the things I really want you to take away, if you're taking notes in today's session, is like, be excited for the people who do show up, right? Don't get all sad and melancholy about the fact that you're maybe not a Kardashian or a Tony Robbins, or, you're not super famous yet. And the thing is, the more you show up, the more, I guess you could call it social capital, the more social capital you're going to earn, because here's what people actually really look for in a coach. I'm talking about visibility for a coaching business. Is that okay with you? Right? Because we could be talking about visibility for the sake of visibility. We could be talking about the content creator path, which is where you like get paid with brand deals and stuff like that. Not my lens. My lens is like, hey, you're an expert, you're a coach, you're a baddie who's done the work to be able to offer your expertise to others, and that expertise should be well compensated. So I'm talking about more from a personal brand perspective and a personal brand of service, right? So shout out service in the chat if you understand, like, I'm very specifically talking about what does it take for you to build, say, a six-figure business as a coach when it comes to visibility. And so here's the thing, you don't have to have that massive following. What you need is a loyal following, right? Shout out loyal in the chat. You need people who show up again and again. You need people who really resonate with what you teach, really resonate with the transformation that you support, and that may even be open to working with you in a deeper way, right? Like, that's really the positioning that a coach has. And like, just think about this for a second. Would you rather have 1,000 people scroll past your content, or would you love to have 10 dream clients who feel like you are speaking directly to them? And I'm like freaking out right now because I got like I'm looking mainly at the Clients Over Chaos camera. I got the Instagram camera over here, and I'm trying to like look at two lenses at the same time. I'm going to get whiplash. By the way, if you want to be in the Clients Over Chaos community, if you're watching this on the gram, make sure you send me the letters DWM, do what matters, DWM, and I will make sure that I send you the link to the community so you can come join us in the community chat. So let's see. What did everybody say? They said they want 10 dream clients. They'd rather have 10 dream clients than 1,000 people scroll past your content. Now, I think that's a very reasonable answer. And that's also the answer that I came up with. Is I was like, look, I don't need to be famous. I don't even really need to be liked. I was journaling about this morning. I was evaluating my calendar, and I'm a big follower of Growth Day. So if you're in the Growth Day crowd, hello. If you're not, you can always send me the message grow, and I'll send you the link to check out Growth Day. Anyway, the question they asked was outstanding. They said, looking at your calendar, what do you appear to really value? And what changes need to happen in your calendar? Isn't that just such a good question? Oh my gosh, such a good question. So yeah, I love Growth Day. I'm a big fan of Growth Day and would be very happy to share the link so you could join us. But when it comes to visibility, one of the things that I wrote down is I do spend a good amount of time on my content. And when I really reflected on it, I was like, I probably need to check the results of my content less often, because I'm very clear that I love and connect with my client relationships the super most, right? And my community members the super most. And it's like, I don't really care if somebody doesn't like me. I don't need to be hyper vigilant about what if somebody says something mean. So I can relax on how often and how much time I'm spending, checking and evaluating on social media, which is also supportive of one of my personal goals, which is I just don't want to be addicted to the media of social. You know what I'm saying? But visibility is super important because I tried the secret coach route. And shout out Secret if you've ever tried this, where you just kind of have this whisper campaign of your super closest friends, and you tell them, oh my gosh, I have the certification. Yeah. No, I've been working on this for years. Yeah. And you tell them in this super hushed tones, the secret that you are this awesome coach, right? And then they go, cool. And the secret goes no further. So let me know if you've ever tried the secret campaign. I tried it because you know what? I do value my solitude. I really do value my relationships. I have a very high standard for the relationships that I'm in. So, I understand the fear or the discomfort with being more visible, but here's the real truth. That secret campaign is not going to take you very far. Because when you're speaking in hushed tones about what it is that you do, the person hearing the whispers is going to be like, oh, it's a secret. It's a secret. I should not tell other people because I've been trusted with this information, right? And even if you say in hushed tones, can you please send me a client? Can you please send me a referral, right? If you do that, they're probably going to be like, this is a mixed message. Right? Am I supposed to be screaming from the rooftops that my bestie or my friend is a really awesome coach? Am I supposed to do that? Or am I supposed to keep talking in hushed tones? Right? Because think about it. If you're being referred to somebody and it's a super secret, do your spider senses go off? You know what I mean? Do you start getting kind of nervous? It's why are you referring to me to somebody who's such a secret? Is it safe? Is it legal? All these questions start coming to, I don't know about you, but it comes to my mind for sure. And so I think the thing is that visibility is super necessary, but I really want you to hear me. It's not this black and white all or nothing thing. It's required, but you don't have to have this binge of visibility. You can have enough, and enough will be enough. But how much is enough? That's a great question. I'd love to tell you. So let's shift our whole definition of visibility, right? Because for most people, they think it's all about the algorithm. Have you ever heard that? I do XYZ to go further in the algorithm, and it's all these hacks, it used to be hashtags. Now people are saying, don't use hashtags. It's posting frequency. It's the hook. It's all these things. And people are talking about their super secrets to hack the algorithm. And guess what? You are not a bank robber. You do not need to hack anything, right? You just need to be seen by people who want to see you. So here's your new visibility formula. The first piece is clarity, okay? So you got to know who you're talking to and what you help them to do. And so this is the absolute foundation of what I teach all of my clients in all of my programs. we talk about this problem of appropriate magnitude that only your perfect person is wrestling with right now. They are sick and tired of this problem and they are ready to break up. Like they want, not with you, but they want to break up with a problem. And so then they're open to receiving wisdom. They're open to receiving time spent on coaching. They're open to the coaching process because they're tired, like sick and tired of the challenge or the problem that they're facing. So for my clients, they're sick and tired of not having enough clients coming. You know, they're sick and tired of knowing that they're supposed to be posting on social media regularly and they struggle with the consistency. They're sick and tired of it, right? But what is it for you? You know, I've got clients, they're sick and tired of the dating scene. They want to find a really nice person to settle down with. I've got clients who are sick and tired of their being passed over for promotions, you know, and so they get helped with the promotional journey. So what is it that your person is facing? And by the way, cheat code on a Monday is make sure that you're choosing problems that people who have money are wrestling with. Because the truth is you got to get paid, right? If you don't make the money, you can't sustain the mission. And if your interest is more in like the nonprofit, you know, where you're not charging the customer, then you need to work even harder to find the nonprofits that you're going to connect with. Because guess what a nonprofit does? They fundraise, right? They fundraise. So either way, the money has to sustain the mission. And too many coaches are like, I'll just work for free forever. Okay, yeah, call me in a year or two when your bank account is just screaming from neglect, right? So it matters what problem you choose, right? Shout out Y in the chat if you got that, like total clarity about who you're talking to, what you help them to do, right? And you're looking for the sick and tired problem. Cool. So the second piece in the visibility formula, so the first one was clarity, if you're taking notes, and the second one is consistency. Boy, oh boy, if I could write a letter to, you know, young Coach Manda, I would say, girl, your success is in your calendar. And I'd be like, what do you mean? And I would say, your success is in your calendar. And I would keep saying, what do you mean? Because I left corporate America for more freedom. So I was always fighting making commitments on the calendar. I was just like, no, I can't do it. I'm ADHD. No, can't do it. I want to have more freedom than I had in corporate America. No, can't do it because I don't want to, right? Like that was just a real, like I am literally having an argument with myself back in the day. But I've changed my mind. And my big mind change is that when you show up regularly, even when engagement is quiet, you are building momentum in the relationships you do have. And you are also building proficiency and capability in your speaking. You're also creating replay material for your content. You're also finding out what doesn't work. Because look, I got to tell you something. Even these lives, like today we've got good turnout, really good turnout today. But the thing is that a few weeks ago I didn't. A few weeks ago I had like 2 people show up. And the difference was probably, you know, just from all the experience that I've got now, was probably just the topic positioning. You know what I mean? And the thing is when you show up really regularly, really consistently, you can test, like, if we talk about this topic, do people show up? If we talk about that topic, do people show up? If we do this, do people show up? If I do that, will people show up? And the thing is, the prerequisite is you got to show up. You got to show up, right? So shout out, show up in the chat. Seriously, like if you're not making a consistent effort because you're not putting it on the calendar because you're making some false argument, like what else have you got to do at that time? Really, really. You know, I think a lot of people don't put things on the calendar because they're pre-anticipating that they're going to be tired, or they're pre-anticipating that they're going to be burned out, or they're pre-anticipating that it's probably not going to work anyway. So they're like stuck in this pre-anticipation place. And I'm like, you know, the one person who can do something about all of that horror story that you're worried about is you, right? That's what consistency is about, commitment to yourself. And here's the thing, when you commit, even if other people are not committing yet, you show people how to commit, okay? You know, I think some people feel maybe a little entitled because they've been told by some guru that all you have to do is show up regularly. And then they show up regularly and they're like, what's up, nobody's showing up, right? Nobody's showing up. And I like that frustrates a lot of people in our space, And I'm here to tell you, look, the first time you do it, you're probably going to get, people showing up to your live stream or to the post and all that kind of thing, because the algorithm's like, oh, let's show this new person what can happen if they post more regularly, because the algorithm is this hungry black hole of a beast. It just wants more content, more content, more content. So the first day of school, the first time you ever post is going to give you this artificial lift, because it's wanting to get you addicted to creating the content, right? Now, here's the thing. It drops off after that. And sometimes precipitously, right? Sometimes it drops off because it's like, well, yeah, you're producing content, but now the standard you're being held to, is your content good? Is your content good? And like, that's another big drop-off point for visibility for a lot of coaches, because they're kind of like, well, I want to talk about ABC, and it looks like the world wants to talk about 1, 2, 3. And I don't want to talk about 1, 2, 3. I want to talk about ABC. And so there's this whole fight about what you should do. And let me ask you this. Do you want to fight, or do you want to grow? Right? Let me know in the chat. Fight or grow, fight or grow. Because we can wish the world was interested in other things all we want to. But really the game is actually collaborative. It's not about fighting. It's not fighting for that better, more beautiful vision that you have in your mind. It's finding common ground. Shout out ground in the chat. If no one's ever said this to you, that to win in visibility, it's about finding common ground. It's not about fighting and advocating for your position, whatever the hell people think. It's like, no, you're finding common ground. And the key is you're finding common ground with people that you actually want to serve. That's the whole thing. So if you're posting and it's ghosting and, people are disappearing on you, it's just because you're talking about something that they're like, I don't have common ground on that. And for a lot of coaches, I'm going to tell you what it is. You're talking too far down the trust path, right? You haven't earned trust yet. So because you haven't earned that rapport, you're posting about things that you're like, you know what you should do? You're finger wagging. You should change your life. You should do things differently. Should. And you're shoulding all over people, and people think that's gross, right? They don't want a mama, right? They want somebody who they connect with, which is the third thing. So the visibility formula is clarity, it's consistency, but the third big piece is connection. Okay? Connection. And so it's all about talking with people, not at them. So that means connecting in comments. That means having DM conversations with people. That means connecting through your stories and things like that. So if you're posting, but there's no conversation, there's no conversing happening with your ideal clients, your ideal avatar, I should say. They maybe not your client yet necessarily, but somebody you think, gee, I might really to work with this person. Well, the thing is, if you're posting, but you're not conversing, then what you're doing is you're broadcasting, but you're not building, right? Shout out build in the chat if you hear the distinction between just broadcasting. I love this visibility formula because if you felt more connected, you'd be more consistent. And if you were more consistent, you would have more clarity. You see that? Right? So it starts with your first best guess on clarity, but then you're building this consistency that's giving you a feedback loop, right? And then if you connect off of the back of your content, your webinars, your free sessions, your networking opportunities, just like anytime you can talk to a person, you are, then that gives you even more feedback loop, a much tighter feedback loop that you can bring back into your already consistent habits, and then you can improve your clarity. So it's this really, really cool, self-fulfilling kind of cycle. Okay, so let's make this really practical. So I would love to know, and if you could just shout in the comments, where is somewhere that you have been showing up lately? Maybe it was Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snap, TikTok. Where have you been showing up lately, but you're not necessarily seeing some traction, right? Yes, consistency wins. Absolutely. It is very common, for sure. So let's see. LinkedIn. Okay. let's get a couple more. So we got LinkedIn, and I'd love to just help you troubleshoot whether we've got a messaging mismatch, a messaging consistency, or connection gap, right? And I got to tell you, like, for people that are doing the show up, right? They do the work, they do the show up, because you got to have clarity to show up. But then after you show up, then you've got, like, there's a level of clarity you're operating from. You do have a level of clarity. So for a lot of people, it's actually the connection that's the missing piece. You're just not yet speaking in an attractive language that people are going to be like, I want to contribute. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's cool. So one of our clients of our Chaos community members says, I'm on Facebook. I'm not trying to sell. I'm just getting out there. LinkedIn too, but I'm not selling. I'm just positioning. So depending on where you are in your journey, you may be in a position that you can't sell yet because maybe your employer doesn't allow that, or, there's some other kind of a factor. So here's what you should be looking for though. Regardless of whether you're selling or not, you want to see growth in the number of followers, and you want to see growth in the number of engagements per week. You want to see growth in how far your content is reaching, because that, like, I have to assume that the reason that you are posting is because you want to have a really solid foundation for sales. Let me know yes or no in the chat if that's why you're doing it. But regardless of whether there's a sale at the end of the day, you should see growth, right? You should see growth, and it should be through or like authentic connection, right? So let's see. I happen to know the couple of people who told me what platforms they're on. So I love it. Amanda, what platform are you posting to? Right? I'm going to just take a look. I'm going to keep it anonymous, and I'm going to give some tips based on what I'm actually seeing. And I'm going to start with the Facebook. Okay. So first thing that I'm seeing that I want everybody to check on, this is for everybody's notes. I want you to check on your profile photo on Facebook. Okay, because I just looked at the first person and the faces are like all cut off, and it's not clear what your expertise is or what your joy is or what the connection point is. So we should make that super, super clear on the banner. And even if you keep it just like photos because you're representing family or something like that, make sure that you optimize it both for desktop and for mobile, okay? So because it might look good on your phone, but it doesn't look good on the computer, right? Yeah. And you can just use Canva, or you can use ChatGPT to help you with that banner. That's super good. I love it. Okay. So I think my favorite post from the last 2 weeks is a photo of you doing something awesome, right? Photo of you doing something awesome. So be very thoughtful when you're sharing content to your wall, when you're sharing other people's content. It's not bad to share other people's content, but just really think about, is this going to be relevant for my ideal client, or is it just entertaining? Because when you're building a personal brand, we're building association. We're building association with those pages that you're sharing. We're building association with the content that you're sharing. And if you want to have the maximum, I was going to say bang for buck or maximum efficiency for a personal brand, we just want to be thoughtful that when we're sharing something, that it's really highly relevant to the conversation and connection that we're trying to have. Okay, I'm going to do another one. Let's see. I'm going to do one more that's on Facebook, and I know who you are, but I'm going to just so I love a pretty background. But again, if you're a professional who's looking for connection with companies that you could be working with, or you're looking for possibly selling to end consumers, so that's either B2B or B2C, we still either way want to know, without scrolling at all, who you are and what you're about, right? So if it's like a scenery photo or a family photo, that doesn't tell me anything. I'm loving like the personal photos. When someone tags you, you do not have to accept the tag. right? So I just talked about sharing from other people's pages so that you have presence on your profile. Again, there's nothing wrong with that strategy, but just be really mindful. I think a lot of people tag because they are using it as a growth hack for their business, but just really think about, I want my profile to skew towards serving the people that I'm meant to have the most impact with. And what happens is when you get more proactive, when you start getting more consistency, other people are going to see that and they're going to go, goody, I can use your platform to promote my stuff. Right? And so then they tag you on stuff that has nothing to do with you. And they ask, do you mind? And they know that you hate saying no. So then you're like, no, I want to support somebody else's business. But again, be so thoughtful. Like, is that going to attract or repel your ideal avatar? And if it's going to potentially be way off topic, don't accept the tag. Just say, I don't do that. Thank you. Right. And that's an example of having a boundary. So those are kind of the big things for Facebook. I'm going to pop over to the LinkedIn because I promised I would do that. Just for more examples. Again, not calling out who I'm talking about. Let's see. But you probably know who you are when I start talking. Oh, yes. Okay. So what I'm seeing for this example is a really good profile. I would be thoughtful about putting your email address directly on there. I'd love to see that be a giveaway or a gift instead. Couple of reasons. When you put your email address, just out there, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to want to prospect you. It's going to fill your inbox with, spam, not really clients looking for you compared to the number of people who are wanting to sell to you. So one kind of gate for that is to have a I call it a free thingy. Some people call them lead magnets, giveaways that are perfect for your ideal client. And if we could have a link there that you capture their email, and then the first time they get your email address is to deliver the gift. So then that person is more likely to be somebody that you should spend time with, because how many of you need to spend more time with people showing up in your inboxes selling you stuff, right? Like, that's probably no one here. I still follow people that I have bought from in the past. I follow people that I might buy from in the future, and that's totally well and good and fine. But if somebody is like just showing up in your inbox in the hopes that, their amazing email is going to convince you to buy, and they're not really invested in a relationship or your success, that's a big waste of time for everyone, right? Shout focus in the chat if you hear me loud and clear that the lead magnet is actually a focus tool for your connections so that you're focusing people that are genuinely interested in what you have to offer instead of just talking to everybody indiscriminately online. Okay, let's see. Let's look at some content here. Wow, good job. I'm seeing some growth in the number of followers, so that's fantastic. The thing about LinkedIn that's a little different is it's not really built to be super addictive. Facebook is really addictive. Instagram is really addictive. People just kind of open it while they're standing in line at Starbucks, whereas LinkedIn is a little more intentional, right? Yeah, it's making sense. Okay, cool. And I see some questions that I may have to answer inside the group, but don't worry, I will. Let's see. So looking at some posts, again, just be super thoughtful about resharing. You can reshare posts, and that's a good way to stay consistent. Just make sure that you're doing that pretty sparingly and it's super aligned, which in the case that I'm looking at, it looks pretty aligned actually. So that's super cool. I'm loving your brand consistency. You know who you are. Like, your colors are sick. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to dig a little deeper here. I love it. Your writing is so beautiful. I think what you've got going really, really well for you is the content that is sharing your personal journey. I'd love to see us work on the hooks, and I'd love to see you come alongside your audience. So it's as if you're sitting next to them and you're listening. This is the exercise. Pretend you're listening to them tell you about their challenges, their obstacles, their problems, and then describe it, right, for them to confirm understanding and then share your story. So I think you're doing a really good job of sharing the vulnerability of your story and your perspectives. But the thing is that people kind of deflect off of that if they don't understand what's in it for me. So we might open with, have you ever, right? Have you ever faced a really hard decision? Like, I'm just going to grab a post here. The hook is a powerful question. So I'm just going to quickly read the post. I think there's a lot of buildup before you get to kind of what the point is. And that's what everybody does when they're first creating content. What I'd love for you to do is take the point and make it the hook. So who do I want to be in the face of this is like the question that you were asking. So if you didn't know I was talking to you, now you know for sure. So I would take that question and I would say, have you ever been facing something confused about what to do next? It's super simple, right? So have you ever, right? Or imagine stepping into a really uncertain situation and somehow knowing what to do. You see, so those are two examples of hooks where it's not really about, we don't build up to the question. We're actually going to put way up front what the benefit of the question being answered is. And like the edit I would make is just, we don't have to build up the question, right? We just want to share what we were going through that led us to being interested in the question, and then ask the question, here's the question and here's why it's so important. And that's the meat and potatoes. So I hope that's really helpful from a content next steps kind of a phase. What I'm actually seeing on this particular profile is it's really good consistency. I think the connection's almost there. We just need to position it like we're coming alongside our person because we're speaking with them as opposed to them, right? Tiny little tweak there, but otherwise I think the content is outstanding. So then the next thing is, how do I drive more people to follow me on LinkedIn? So gosh, I could just like talk all day about visibility and content. And I know we can't because you have plans. I got plans. We all got plans for this week, y'all. So don't worry, because we're going to keep going with our next topic next week. We're going to be talking about, let me just get this for you. Shoot, I don't have it. What am I even doing? Live stream series. There it is. Thank you, Google Chrome. All right. I'm like, jump into my weeks. Okay, here we go. So the next one is about networking nirvana. How's that for a segue? So the thing with LinkedIn for most of you is that the power of it is going to be from meeting people IRL in real life, and then sending them your LinkedIn so you can stay connected. Then the content and the consistency with your content keeps you really top of mind, and you can continue the conversation through DM. You can invite them to a coffee chat, but like not everybody's going to be ready to talk to you in a deeper way. Not everybody's going to be ready for a coffee chat, or you're going to have a coffee chat and it's like not the right time for them to hire a coach. But that doesn't mean never, that means not right now. So the role of your LinkedIn content is going to be to keep your relationships warm over time. And you're going to use it in tandem with your email newsletter. But the cool thing about LinkedIn is you can post more often than you can with sending emails. Like you could do a couple of posts a day on LinkedIn, no problem, but not that you have to. If you're doing, say, like a weekly newsletter, a weekly email, and you're showing up on LinkedIn 3, 4, 5 times a week, in addition to the email, it just reinforces the relationship, right? So shout out reinforce in the chat. That might be a big word, but just shout out reinforce if you kind of get that, like your visibility plan is not about virality. It's about deepening the relationships with people, especially in the beginning, people you know IRL in real life. Think about like if somebody does give you a referral, when you do that referral connection, make sure that you're reaching out to them on LinkedIn and you're connecting on Facebook and Instagram, anywhere you can find the person, and you're sharing that content back, right? So if you're ready to really focus on this, then I strongly suggest you come and join us inside of the Clients Over Chaos community. And I'm also going to be hosting a webinar very soon. When is it? I'm going to be hosting a webinar on July 23rd. And it's going to be all about expanding past your virality, being truly visible, using systems so that you do not burn out, right? Shout out systems in the chat if you're like, here for it, right? I really want to be involved in having the right systems for my messaging. And by the way, if this really resonated with you and you really want, to dive right in as quickly as possible, the fastest way to do that is just book a coffee with me. So you can go to pickAmandasBrain.com. That's pickAmandasBrain. So there's no apostrophe. It's just pickAmandasBrain, one word, .com. And you can buy me a coffee and I'll spend 20 minutes with you on whatever you like. And there is one per customer. So if you've had a coffee with Kaufman before, you know who you are, right? But if we've never chatted and you think like, I might be able to really help you with your messaging and your visibility, I think you may be right about that. And all it costs is a cup of coffee. Now, remember, you don't need a bigger audience. You just need a clearer message. So let's make sure that they see you. And I'm going to see you next week. And we're going to be talking about how do we make networking connections that really, really count. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue the conversation in our Clients Over Chaos community. You can come join us at next5clients.com. That's next number 5clients.com to get daily inspiration and connection as you grow your coaching business. We'll see you soon.